When India was whitewashed by New Zealand, we all thought that they are not making it to World Test Championship final. I mean, that was pretty clear for us. But then after the first test, after Bumrah launched his train over the Australian batting lineup and Yashasvi Jaiswal showed his talent once again, displaying that he is not an anomaly, rather he is a legend in the making. We think that India has a clear chance of making it to World Test Championship final, and Australia, they might be going out, which is a huge surprise. So here we are, basically previewing the second test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Uh, as always, I've got Aram here with me. First of all, Aram, how are you doing?
I'm good, Emad. It's good to be back after a short break. And there's a lot going on, and I feel once this series started, there's always rightfully so a lot of hype around the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and I've always felt it's not often lived up to its hype, but I think the Pella game hua hai, it has really showed what the fans were waiting for from all around the globe. So I feel it was a great game, especially for India because as you mentioned, the whitewash against New Zealand, they were against the walls, they had their backs against the walls. People were questioning them, and suddenly everything has shifted towards Australia being the one criticized them, which is something that we haven't heard for quite a long time. And as Pakistan fans, we as cricket fans for that matter, any team, any cricket fan always likes when Australia is against the wall, Australia is getting critiqued because it just comes naturally to us that we want them to also go through what people go through when they visit Australia. So I feel them losing at home is a big deal, and losing so convincingly, and it was a very good performance by the Indian team. I feel that it is the perfect start to the Australian summer, and there's a lot to see, look forward to in this five-match series.
Oh yeah, I think even English fans were conceding how this series is probably at the level of Ashes at this point after the first Test match. How entertaining it was. So let's just sort of start with the strengthening of Indian lineup that's going to happen in the second Test as their captain Rohit Sharma comes back into the side, and then now India s- sort of has a lot of confusion because who are they going to replace? Obviously, KL Rahul has done really well. Jaiswal will never be replaced. Gill will not be replaced. So how are we catering that? So maybe for starters, Rohit Sharma will obviously slot back into his opening spot alongside Jaiswal, and then Gill obviously has been playing well at number three for India as well. Maybe Rahul has to go down then at number five or six because he won't be dropped.
Yeah, so I feel there's a lot of stuff that's going around. When a team wins, so these questions often come up that you're trying to get your captain back into the side. He's not the sort of a player that you can leave out for too long. So I feel that is obviously causing headaches for the selectors and the team management in the Indian setup. But there's quite some things to look forward to over here because अभी जो वो Prime Minister 11 वाला game हुआ था, रोहित शर्मा batted at number 5. So it is pretty interesting to see. Now there are two aspects to this. One is he doesn't care; he just wanted to go out and bat, and they just wanted him to get into the next, start scoring runs, get some game time. But the other side of the coin could be that maybe it's a hint that he'll come and bat at number 5 in the game, which he hasn't done for the Indian cricket team. So I feel that, but for me, I think it will be a huge surprise if he comes down. But I think he'll still be, in the opening slot. I think Padikal would be the one who would be dropped because we all know Shubman Gill will be coming in. So Wali Bath at number 3, and there will be quite a lot of things that India will have to do over here. And it's not that often that things like this happen that you win and you get more headaches than the side that has lost the game. So I feel that this is something that they'll be having a close look on. And Baki, though, I think KL Rahul, you talked about KL Rahul. I feel that he did pretty well as well. So I don't see him getting dropped either. And Jaiswal, after that brilliant century, I feel that there's no one replacing him. I quite the first time I saw him play, maybe in the IPL or in the domestic structure when he was not part of the Indian team, we just had a a hunch that this guy is going to do pretty good, and his range of shots, the flick that he played on to the leg side in his century innings, I
Yeah.
felt that that was a great shot by him. So it just shows the players that are coming up from the ranks, from down to the up in the Indian circuit, have gone through the struggles and have started coming up as great players in the international circuits, not just decent players from the domestic ones. So I feel this is something that Indian cricket has worked on, especially for their batters, that they have now started producing batters who do great when they're in the international circuit as well, rather than just being decent batters.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Padikkal and Jural will probably be replaced, and KL Rahul will probably come down. That is what my assessment is. But me, as you mentioned, that Rohit Sharma batted down the order. However, I think that it's very likely that he just wanted to just get ball on the bat. But yeah, moving on, let's just sort of go towards Australia, and in terms of how they are all of a sudden are being seen as a struggling lineup, and there are a lot of there's a lot of questions on their batting, especially Marnus Labuschagne. He was probably one of the best batters 2 years ago. Now he just can't seem to make any kind of runs. So, are we gonna see him being dropped going down the series?
Yeah, I feel there's a lot of talk around Marnus Labuschagne in the Australian cricket circles as well right now. We've heard people talk about it. He's had sort of a rough patch for the entire year. He's averaged about 25 odd in the last year or so, and he's played 6 or 7 games, I feel. So they feel that he's going through a bad patch, and they want him to do good. So there are some arguments. People talked about him being played just along. We saw that Scott Boland played in the Prime Minister 11's game, so they felt that maybe they would have played Marnus Labuschagne as a in that practice game as well. Him getting some confidence over there could have done loads of good to him when he plays in Adelaide against India in the second game. There were talks about him getting dropped as well. There's a lot going. I for the first time have felt the Australian circuit going into that panic mode, because it's quite rare to see them go like this. And to be very honest, it was a bit amusing for me as well, because we see these sort of things happening all around, especially in the Asian teams in Pakistan and India. But for sides like England, Australia, and South Africa, especially Australia, you don't see this quite often. So it was quite amusing for me. I've always felt that the quality, the type of player that Marnus Labuschagne is, people often give him the leeway, the leverage that he can come back into the game. But from what they are also talking about it being some sort of a mental block, where Marnus is suffering. Marnus is not able to convert those some starts. In the first game, he did not get any starter, so he just made 5 or 6 runs combined in both the innings. So, but generally throughout this year, he's been able to get a few starts, but not been able to convert those into. So they're talking about it being something related to him maybe getting away from the game for a while as well. But and obviously we've seen some people coming up the ranks who may replace him going forward as well, because there are a lot of talks about people performing at the domestic cricket for the spots of the openers, as well as number 3 and number 4. So there are quite a lot of question marks on the top 4. We obviously McSweeney played his first game, so we can't discredit him that much. Obviously, there was first day jitters for everyone, but apart from him, there weren't enough contributions from Khwaja, Marnus, and even Steven Smith for that matter. So there are a lot of questions. The Australian media, I was hearing this somewhere in any podcast, that they talked about Cameron Bancroft doing well in the Sheffield Shield. I think he scored a century, as well as Sam Constance, who played in the Prime Minister's 11th game. And the way he played, I've just caught up with a few of the snippets of his innings. You know, those ramp shots, reverse ramp shots in a test game. And obviously, it was a shortened game, and it did not have that much high attention from everyone. But the way he played, and he scored more than run a ball for his century. So he stamped his authority and maybe made a question to the selectors as well, that he himself is also there, and maybe they start considering him going forward. So there are quite a lot of questions for the Australian circuit right now, and selectors as well as the management to answer. There's quite a lot of responsibility on Pat Cummins being the leader of the side. We've all seen how well he's been doing for the past years, and will he be able to pick himself up, his side up, when comes the next game? That is a big question.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the Prime Minister's 11 game, as well as the people who are in contention for that opening spot. So it's a good way to sort of transition towards that. I think the idea is that Constas is young right now, but he's still in contention for that opening spot, and McSweeney can sort of come down to his natural position of number three. But I don't think they're going to do that because Australian cricket's one of the strength is stability, and they really bank on that. So they might not make those kind of changes in the top order mid series. But yeah, but after the series, I think Marnus Labuschagne will have a lot of question marks over himself if he keeps on performing like this. But yeah,
Uh, also, I feel the records, sort of supports Marnus playing in Adelaide. He has an average of around 70 when he plays in Adelaide. So maybe they might bank on him doing well in that particular ground, and maybe give him another go. And if he does well, so all the questions will be answered, because we everyone knows the potential and the quality that he has, and how he has performed throughout the years. You know, Replacing someone like Steven Smith when he was down for a bit, and then getting himself into the side as a permanent fixture to the side. I've always had huge amount of respect for the player that he is, and I feel that you can't keep him out of the game for that long. So I feel that he'll be given the chance, as you talked about the stability very well. So maybe they'll persist with him, and you never know, he comes good in the next game.
yeah, there's no chance he's being dropped in the second test or the third test. I mean, the last time Australian cricket went into this kind of panic mode where they dropped half of their side was in 2017 versus South Africa, when they were absolutely ruined by Vern Philander and Kyle Abbott in Hobart and Brisbane. But moving towards the bowling of Australia, Ravi Shastri once mentioned that the bowler who's feared the most in the Indian camp is Josh Hazelwood, and now he's out as well. And so we have a like for like replacement in Scotty Boland, build a man a statue. But I think that is a huge loss for Australia, considering Josh Hazelwood did bowl pretty well in the first innings, and at the same time, we all know that Indian camp really fears him as well. So, how are you looking forward to this panning out?
Yeah, so as you talked about, Scott Boland being the like for like replacement for Josh Hazelwood, similar build to people, and but the part that not surprises me, but just worries me for a bit, is this control that Josh Hazelwood provides to the Australian bowling side. You have proper attacking bases from the other end in form of Mitchell Stark and Pat Cummins. From the other end, you have to control the lines and lengths that he sticks to throughout his spells. Josh Hazelwood is something that may be missed when Scotty Boland bowls, but he did good in the practice game that they had right now. Obviously, it isn't a replication of what they would be doing in the international game, but you sort of get the groove the bowler is in, and I feel that he is going to do well the way he's doing right now.
Yeah, obviously there are no doubts over Scotty Boolan's ability, but moving on towards the Indian bowling lineup, they seem to be at their peak at this point, because Jasprit Bumrah, I'm imagining myself, I'm imagining him with the pink ball, in the first session. He's it's going to be a massacre. I'm very sorry to say this word, but Jasprit Bumrah is in the form of his life. He's he's doing incredibly well. I think I see India winning the series just because of just Bumrah alone. And apparently, I don't know. I've seen this quote float around a lot of Steve Walker: "Give me 10 sticks and one chai Dafidi, and I will win you a World Cup." I can say that about Jasprit Bumrah at this point. I don't know, but yeah, but even beyond just Bumrah, we've got Mohammad Siraj, Harshad Rana, Nitish Kumar Reddy is chipping in with the ball as well, and then Washington Sundar got wickets as well as a spinner, and he might get some with the pink ball as well. I don't know how that pan out, but yeah, your comments on the great Indian bowling lineup.
The Indian bowling lineup has done splendidly well, and I feel that this was something that was expected of the Indian bowling lineup before they came into the series. People weren't questioning how India would bowl. There were questions around how would they be able to fare against the Australian bowling lineup, in terms of how they would bat. But there were absolutely no questions on how Jasprit Bumrah and Co, lead about with the business, and they absolutely did not disappoint. When you are out, your team is out for 150 odd in the first innings. There's inherent pressure on the bowlers when you come out to bowl, that maybe you'll not be able to deliver as the other team did, other bowling lineup did. But the way they came out to bowl, the seam positions, the ball swinging around, it is prime test cricket for me. You often neglect this part as a cricket fan, that you're too much lost in the run scores and the high scoring games, that you often forget about the very basics of cricket, which is a great fast bowler running in and targeting the pads or outside off stump, people edging it, and the slip ball coming into play. I've always had huge amounts of respect for Jasprit Bumrah. Also, the way the Indian cricket circuit has managed him for that matter, because he is their prime factor bowler, and he's their prime asset for that matter. And the way they have kept him around, just they've polished him, they've made sure that he's not injured, or whenever he's injured he's had the proper rehab. And along with him, I felt that Mohammad Siraj and even Harshit Rana gave him pretty good company. The way they bowled in partnerships, I've always felt that pace bowling in partnerships is a pretty good way of going about in Test cricket. So I felt that they were absolutely perfect. And Washington Sundar chipping in with the wickets as well. It was good to see, because we saw Nathan Lyon being a bit uh, uh, you could say attacking, or a bit dangerous in a few balls that he bowled. Maybe a few to Virat Kohli, where the ball just missed everything, and also the stump. So we saw that the pitch had something to offer when it came to the last few days, and the spinners came into, uh, and obviously Ravindra Jadeja always has had the confidence of the Indian team management, and he's always been there for them. But Washington Sundar, I felt that he did pretty good. And also considering the fact that people were talking about Ravichandran Ashwin coming in maybe in the later part of the series, so by him performing like that, so he's essentially closed the doors on Ashwin as well, for that matter, because I really enjoyed it.
You talked about the Indian fast bowling and how incredible it has been in the last in last actually 4 to 5 years. I was going to say 2 to 3 years, and all the credit goes to Virat Kohli, as a lot of people say. And the man is also back in form. He was averaging 20, and now he scored 100 in his second home. How well he played for the Indian side, and really complimented Jaiswal. Obviously, no taking away the credits, but yeah, with Virat Kohli being in form, how do you see Indian batting going into the next four tests?
Yeah, when you talk about Virat Kohli, and I think rightly so mentioned about it, Australia being a second home. So it's always, the question is always about it's a matter of time when he comes good. when will he come good in Australia? It's never about will he score runs or not. And now it's not even a method. It's just plain facts that uh, he'll come into Australia, score those big runs, and that century obviously proved his critics wrong. There were a lot of questions surrounding him as well, especially after that dismissal in the first innings. Will he be able to do the same thing that he did previously? And just jumping on, obviously Virat Kohli did pretty well, but just jumping on to someone like Rishabh Pant, the way he deflects all the pressure off the Indian batting lineup, that allows the other batters also to play very freely. Obviously, the numbers do not show what exactly sort of the impact that Rishabh Pant creates within the innings, but the other contributions from the other players, it reflects if you look at it very closely. So I feel that again, bowling partnerships and batting partnership for that matter. Also, we saw the opening partnership of the Indian batting lineup, where we talked about Jaiswal doing extremely well, and later on Virat Kohli with that magnificent century. So you see that the India came into the series being well prepped, their batters being in the right frame of mind. Even after that first innings, the way they came back in the second one, it's pretty heartening to see. And it's not that often that you see a side from Asia. If there was a side that I would say in world cricket, if any team could have done this, which they did in the first innings, it had to be the Indian cricket team. So against a team like Australia, so all the credit goes to them, Virat Kohli and all the batters as well.
Yeah, so we all know that Australians have a great record in pink ball tests at Adelaide, and they are a pretty good side. Would still sort of rank them in top three. So, what's your prediction for the second test? Do you see Australia making a comeback? Honestly, for the entertainment, I would genuinely want Australia to make a comeback so that we have a good Boxing Day test match as well as the next few matches. Oh, wait, no, no, actually, no. Boxing Day test match is the fourth test. Never mind. But still, do you see Australia making a comeback, considering their batting lineup not being in form, or they missing Josh Hazelwood, and India being at their absolute peak, even after their 3-0 loss against New Zealand? What do you think?
So, uh, Australia, the side they are, you always talk about when are they going to come back after a defeat like this. And I feel that it won't be that easy for India to just roll over them in the second game. I always have felt that a side like Australia will always be raring to go whenever the time comes. And you talked about them missing Josh Hazelwood and the struggles with the batting. I feel that even we talked about Marnus having a great record at Adelaide. So maybe my out of the box prediction could be Marnus scoring some runs and helping his side to a victory. You never know, but for the entertainment factor, as well as if you want a good contest within the series, within the trophy, you want them to make a comeback, even win the game, make a statement that it's not that easy to come to our home and beat us, even if it's a side like India. And some competition to the Indian bowling lineup, because quite frankly they have been sort of invincibles for the past few years. So doing something like that against them in a ground like Adelaide would be pretty good for the Australians.
Yeah, I think I also, even with if all the evidence is pointing towards an Indian win, I I don't know why, I just see Australia winning this one. I think Pat Cummins will show up, as far as I think. But yeah, that's about it for the preview of the second test of the Border Gasket Trophy from 30 Yard Circle. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.